I'm Kevin Barral with my co-host Isaac Azout, and we have a very special guest, one that many Marlins fans know, Craig Mish of Sports Grid. Craig, how are you? We are very, very excited to have you on and talk about the Marlins that are over 500.
Hi, Kevin Barral. How are you?
I'm good.
Isaac, good to see you.
You too, Craig. Things are looking swell for this team, huh?
Definitely a better start than I would have anticipated after seeing the first four games. So, yeah, game over 500. I don't think anybody should be complaining at this point. We'll find a way. But at this point, there's not a lot to complain about. I'm sure we'll get into that, but there are some things obviously. But to me, a pretty good start, all things considered.
Yeah, is this what you expected to see from the team, Craig? I mean, we talk about the offseason and what they did to really acquire players, Cueto, Segura. You made a trade to get Luis Ariz on this team, a couple other deals here and there, Chargois, who unfortunately now injured. Well, is this what you really expected out of the Marlins? I would say almost 20 games into the season.
Yeah, I think so. I look at the end of the season. I still maintain the same thing. I think either they're going to continue what they're doing here, and some of it does feel a little magical. Some of it does feel a little lucky. I'm just being honest. But at this rate, they would finish several games over 500, which would be a pretty massive improvement over last year. So if that continues, that's pretty much what I thought. Or my opposite take was it would just be a disastrous type season. I still don't just see them as 81 and 81. I know that's kind of where it is right now, but I just don't feel that way. I feel like that things would change significantly for the better, or they would be where they were a year ago. But as of right now, they're exactly where I guess most would project them to be, which would be a little bit above 500. But look, I personally don't think that the way that they have been winning is sustainable. But I think what's important to note is that the last few years, everybody was like making all these excuses about injuries and one-run games and not really just, attaching yourself to the record of the team. This year, no one's making any excuses. No one's talking about any one-run games. And it's just like, oh, this is where they're supposed to be. Well, this year, they're on the luckier side. And that's just what sports is. You accept what your record is and you don't make excuses. I saw today where their run differential is so bad. Who cares? That's what you should have been saying last year, too. The run differential is so good. Who cares? It doesn't make a difference. At the end of the year, no one remembers what the run differential is. So, I think definitely there's some encouraging signs thus far, without a doubt. But to say that they haven't been a little fortunate, I think most people, if you cornered them, would say, yeah, we've been a little lucky in a few of these games, too, which is fine. It's the way it goes.
Yeah, I would agree. And one of the things that hasn't been as fortunate, I think even looks worse than he did last year, is Avisaíl García. I got to ask you, we wouldn't be doing
6 minutes in, huh? Wow.
Yeah, if we wouldn't be doing our jobs if we don't ask you this. What are Miami's options here? You reported a few months ago that he would have a couple months, if not his playing time would diminish. Is a trade even an option? What options do they have, and what do you think they will do? Because they've got a couple of years with a lot of money left on this guy.
Yeah, I think with a look, I don't know what the next week or two is going to be. I wouldn't anticipate anything happening like on this road trip or anything like that. But you do have to ask yourself again, with them winning all these one-run games, we know they're going to be in a lot of tight games all season long. We know that there are going to be times where they're offensively challenged, and you wonder to yourself, what would just an average player look like in the roster? Because he has been a below average player now going on a year and a month. So I've had a lot of conversations about this and continue to have a lot of conversations about it. I think the time is running out. I do. I don't think it's today, but I think there comes a point where you just basically have to just take your L on this if this continues and sort of move on. I could still see him having a good career elsewhere. It just hasn't worked for him here at all. And with the new coaching staff and a new hitting coach, you would have thought to yourself, oh, okay, maybe there's a new lease on a career. I personally haven't seen it, and we are seeing it with Soler. So really, what is the difference here? Avisaíl García got more money than Jorge Soler, and he hasn't been able to turn it around. Soler looks like exactly who we thought he was going to be a year ago. So, I don't have a clear answer on the timetable here, but there definitely is, I would say, organizational frustration. There's no question about it at this point, and this just cannot go on forever. The only thing that I would add to the conversation is this: it's not like the Marlins are so blessed with 5 or 6 easily replaceable players sitting in the minor leagues
Right.
that would guarantee to be better. Like anyone who's calling for all those guys, you really don't know. And so if they were just to cut the cord, let's say in May at some point, and they were to call up, Peyton Burdick, and Peyton Burdick was to struggle, let's say that would happen. I mean, then what? Then, who do you turn to at that point? It's just not an easy thing because it's not like they have just so many easy options to replace him with. I think that's part of the conversation too. Who do you know is going to be able to replace him and be much better? Can anybody replace him and be better? Yes. Look, he's a below average player. His WAR is negative again this year, but you can't guarantee me that Peyton Burdick's going to come up and mash. You cannot guarantee me that putting Jesus Sanchez in the lineup every day is going to mash. He didn't do it last year either. So I think that's part of what they're hanging on to also.
All right. Well, I'm sure you saw this morning. We're recording this on April 20th. Madison Bumgarner was designated for assignment. So what you're saying is it is possible that they would be willing to eat the rest of the money. And before we get to that, would a swap of these two players be something that they'd be interested in?
Of Bumgarner, you mean?
Yeah.
No, I haven't heard that, so I don't think so. But maybe just like initially, my thought is that if it didn't go well at the beginning, that they would bench Avi. But the more I'm sort of thinking about it here, is I just don't think that would be good for anybody. I don't think it would be good for the team. I don't think it would be good for him. It would just be delaying the inevitable. So if they do get to that point, I just think it's a wash. I know I threw out yesterday the Ozuna idea, which short term would cost them more money because Ozuna's making more money than Avi, but long term would save them some money too. All these things I think were in play, but I think the easiest outcome that I see playing out is just this continues, and a month from now, maybe less, I don't know, they just decide, hey, look, it's just better that we cut bait. But I think it's going to be a little bit longer before they make that call. But I understand everybody's frustration. We are all watching the same thing every day.
You think he could they just eat up the money and DFA him?
Yeah. Not now, but yeah.
Not now. But
I don't see any other option. I don't see any viable option for it. What would one be? You'd have to present me with one.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about another outfielder. You mentioned a couple outfielders they have on this team. The other one's Jesus Sanchez, who has also struggled big time this season and also last season, but with less playing time this year because of Brian De La Cruz and other guys. What's the leash for how much longer does he have to prove success on the Marlins? And with Peyton Burdick in the minor leagues doing what he's doing right now, kind of is he putting some type of pressure for Miami to bring him up at some point? This guy's leading the International League in homers. He's getting on base. He's doing everything he needs to do to get into minor leagues. And Burdick also had a nice spring training too. Even you could argue better than Sanchez.
Yeah, with Wendell being out, if for some reason they were to, let's just say, DFA or again trade Jesus Sanchez in some way, Kevin, they would have absolutely no left-handed hitters to bring in at any point of any Major League Baseball game, and that is why Jesus Sanchez is on the Miami Marlins. I don't think if Jesus Sanchez was right-handed, I do not think he would be on the Marlins anymore. But they have no choice whatsoever. And I think what you've seen, at least in the early part of the season, maybe more so with Skip Schumaker than with Don Mattingly, is Skip is making a lot of in-game changes in the 6th and the 7th and the 8th and the 9th. And when he wants to go to the bench against, a right-handed pitcher, generally speaking, you're going to want to put a left-handed batter up there, even though the Giants were miserable all week offensively. And Arizona, by the way, they weren't that great either. Like, they had all these different options to bring in the lefty-righty splits. And the Marlins just, if they don't have any lefties, let's just be honest, they don't have anyone. Now, if Wendell comes back, that maybe you say, okay, well, maybe they would say Wendell's not our starter anymore. He's our guy that we bring in the 7th, 8th, and 9th to hit from the left side. And him and Birdie just swap spots every once in a while. Like, maybe that would be a better option. But as long as Wendell is out and they're facing Camilo Doval, like in the 9th inning, or they're facing some Emmanuel Clase, like who's going to hit this guy? Like you need a lefty to come in the game. And so they're going to, I think they're going to have to go outside the organization and find somebody at some point. I can't see this continuing. The Blue Jays, were an excellent team over the last couple of years. I think the reason the Blue Jays didn't go as far as they had just had all right-handed hitters, man. They didn't have any lefties. And that's why they traded Teoscar Hernandez, to get more lefty. I think the Marlins have to get more lefty, a little bit more. I mean, Jazz, Arias, Wendell, right? Am I missing? Is there someone else I'm missing?
Sanchez, but that's
Sanchez.
You had late. Yeah. Well, speaking of going out of the organization, you saw Trevor Rogers went down with the forearm strain. You tweeted out that you expect him to go on the IL. If that's the case, are they going to look outside the organization to fill in that slot again, or are they going to stay in-house?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even check, by the way, on if he had an MRI today. I'm assuming he did. I didn't check on it. I think if it was very serious, I probably would know already. So it's my guess. I don't know for sure, but I think if it was serious, I'd get an alert somehow. But look, there's an option there, but it does seem to me that I think Hoeing is probably the next man up. It does feel like that. So I think he's probably, I would guess he's probably going to get the start. Look, the other thing that they could do, and I think that we should talk about this a little bit more, is that the non-traditional route to this. I mean, I got to tell you, I don't know if he's good or not. I have no idea. But this guy, George Soriano's, look really good. And maybe it's an opener, maybe it's Okert. Okert did that a little bit. Maybe Okert comes back. He pitches the first. Soriano pitches 2, 3, 4. Maybe that, I mean, I can't believe we're doing openers here this early, but maybe that's the route that they choose to go. I don't know. They've been adverse to it a little bit in the past, but maybe that's something that they would consider, because I don't know how good Hoeing's going to be. His stuff is ticked up apparently.
Yeah.
But then behind him, you really don't have anything, So, I don't know what to say. Yeah, maybe outside. Maybe they signed Bumgarner. Who knows? Maybe.
Do you think there's any chance they call up Yuri sooner rather than what is no? Okay. No. The next player I wanted to ask you about is Jean Segura, who they signed to I think it was a 2-year deal with an option. He struggled. I mean, there's just no other way to say it. There's times at third base he doesn't look even too sharp. Do you have any concern about Jean Segura right now? And do you think that the organization may have some type of struggle with a guy who, really should be playing second base at his age now, at his point in his career? And do you think there's any alternatives that they could look at, outside of Jean Segura if he continues to struggle how he is?
Yeah, I feel like it's too early for that. I think he's got a long track record of success, and my guess is at some point he'll start to get it going. From looking at his swings, it does seem like he is trying too hard. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but it sort of feels like that watching it. Defensively, I don't think that you're going to be able to change who he is. Seemed a little bit better at third over the last few games than he did over the first few. But I think we got to give that one a little bit more time. But who knows? I mean, look, we have seen the way that free agency has gone for the Marlins. The trades have certainly looked a lot better than free agency. The trades have looked really good, as a matter of fact. But the free agents, when they get here, for whatever reason, sometimes it doesn't go well. And Segura could be another one. I don't know, but too early, I think, on him. I would pause that.
You mentioned Arias earlier, Craig. We do know they extended Sandy Alcantara. In my opinion, they have 3 candidates for another extension: Luis Arias, Jesus Luzardo. Have they had conversations with any of these guys regarding a contract extension?
Not to my knowledge, no. Not to my knowledge. And again, the reason why they look, I think at a trade deadline or at an offseason, I still think Pablo Lopez is more valuable in terms of a trade piece than Luis Arias is. That's my opinion. And so I think they recognize that, which is why they got the extra year of Arias. So is it something they can attack in the offseason? Absolutely. But, guys, 2 more years of control in addition to the one that he's playing with now. I just personally, I mean, I know, fans are going to hate this, but I don't see what the sense of urgency at this minute would be to do that. My biggest concern for Arias is that finger. Like, I think he needs a break for a game or two. Every time he swings the bat, he looks like he's hurt. I mean, hopefully that day off will do him some good. But I think even though he is getting some hits in the interim, since that injury, it has looked tough for me. So hopefully he can get healthy, because they're going to need him.
Just to quickly follow up Isaac's question, he meant the only other extension guy I want to possibly mention is Cooper. I know that he's an all-star last year. He's looked good this year. I mean, this team organizationally does not have much first base depth. The next guy up would be in the minor leagues would be Troy Johnson. And after that, you're looking even lower in the minor league system. So
Right.
is that someone that Miami's looked into possibly extending?
No. But that's it. It's an interesting topic and conversation that I've had also. So I think Cooper, in my opinion, Cooper is a candidate for a qualifying offer. That's the way that I look at this. I think he's the candidate for they run him out the whole year, and then at the end of the season, they offer him the qualifying offer, which is going to be massive. But I personally don't think the Marlins will have any choice if he has this year that he's having, because clearly to me, if Soler is doing what he is doing, I don't think he's going to get mega bucks, but he's going to get a lot more than $9 million next year. He's going to get 2 for 20 or 3 for 30 or 2 for 16. I mean, Adam Duvall, who I love so much, didn't even play a lick basically last year and got like $14 million. So Soler is gone. Yeah. Soler is going to leave, I think, at the end of the year. And if that's the case, like offensively, you don't have a lot left. Now, long way to go, guys. It's only April 20th, and we're talking about next year. But that would be my prediction. If I had to guess right now, Marlins don't offer him any long-term deal. They offer him the qualifying offer, and then Coop would have to make that decision at that point to say, hey, look, do I do this? Do I stay here for another year, make almost $20 million if that's the route they go? I mean, he would maybe be a candidate to accept the qualifying offer too, I think. So that would be the direction that I would assume. Now, again, talk to me in August. I don't know what the record is at that point. I'm saying if the record is a game over 500 in August, then obviously they're going to keep Coop and they're going to run through the season. But if the season gets flipped on its head somehow, it would be irresponsible not to trade Cooper somewhere else and to get something back, because he would be a free agent at the end of the year. But I that's my guess. Don't know. This is just pure speculation on my part with that.
And if they were to offer Coop the qualifying offer and he rejects it, that they get the draft pick, correct? Is that how that?
Right.
So
it's still draft pick compensation. So I think that would be a win-win for everyone. And some players do accept qualifying offers. So so I some do. In fact, the one that did, I think, is actually the perfect fit for the Marlins moving forward if the season continues to go on. I think that if I thought, guys, the Giants looked like one of the worst teams in baseball. I don't know about you, but even with getting Mitch Haniger back and getting Michael Conforto back, I don't know. They looked really bad. And how would Jock Peterson look in the Marlins outfield for the final few months of the season? Left-handed hitter, maybe a little platooning with Brian De La Cruz. Funny guy, good atmosphere, clubhouse guy. So to me, I'm going to keep my eye on that one. No conversations or anything like that, but I'm starting to think like guy could play center, guy could play left-handed bat. That feels like a good fit.
Makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned center field. The last extension candidate we didn't get to was Chisholm Jr. Internally, how the Marlins graded his transition out there so far, and have they reached out to him at all?
No. They know it's been a work in progress with the defense, but it's looked better over the last few days for sure. And offensively he's looked better too. He's looked better over the last few days. Maybe these lineup changes seem to have worked a lot with what Skip has done. Yeah. So I think maybe honestly, when you think about it, the highest grade we could give to anything in the first few weeks of the season is maybe the manager. Right? This manager, and again, it could be some luck involved here, but it's like the guy does this, it works. The guy does this, it works. The guy does this, it works. It's like, let's bring in this bullpen guy. That it's just, other than Smeltzer getting blown up, everything has been perfect. It really has looked that way, at least to me. So we'll see.
Yeah, the way he's used Brazoban, I couldn't agree more. Brazoban, Scott, he's gone Scott to not need Mel Stoudemire.
How in the heck did he get Scott good? I mean, that's obviously Mel. But again, putting Soler in the pinch hit spot and putting Arise in the pinch hit spot, and it's like moving Jazz down,
he's been good.
Jazz up, moving Jazz. I don't. It seems, at least from my view, that's been a change. Now, again, I don't want to understate that there's been some serious luck involved in the Marlins 10-9 record thus far, which again, you could say they had bad luck last year, and that's fine too. So I don't think that this way that they're going about it is sustainable, but they said that in 2003, and Jack McKeon would go to the mound and he'd make a change, or he'd put a guy in the lineup. He'd be like, why is he playing this guy? And the guy would hit 2 home runs. It was incredible. So sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
Yeah, right. He actually did push down Avisaíl García all the way down to the 7 hole, which I think was one of the first times in his Marlins tenure. Craig, we also put a tweet out advertising that you were coming on, and one of the more common questions we had for you was about DJ Sphillick. Obviously, it's no secret that Miami has had trouble drafting players, whether you blame it on the development or the choosing of the players. I blame it more on the drafting. Are they happy with DJ Sphillick? Is he also sort of on his last year of proving that, hey, he can nail a first rounder? Because so far, from my counting, he's 0 for
4. Well, okay, so Jacob Berry, the returns have not been great early, although he did look much better in the spring on the backfields than he did in the games either way. So I mean, I'm still hesitant to throw like a negative on that. The draft pick of JJ Bleday, it's hard for me to say. I've had different conversations about him. I mean, a part of this is that I think that he would have been taken the pick after by whoever took him. So, I mean, was that just a bad pick in general, or is it something on the player? I don't know. In terms of Watson came with a lot of baggage. There's no question about that. They knew that when they took him. So, look, I think when you go back and you look at it, I think there have been some promising things. I thought Meyer looked good. I thought Eder looked good. The other part of this that definitely happened in the early part of DJ's drafting and when it happened in the organization is there was really I know they took Berry and they needed an offensive player, but before that, there really was no edict on like, here's who we take. Like, here is how we're building the team. It was sort of like, just take the best player that you think is available, hitter or pitcher, and we'll have an organization that'll be able to make trades. And we want the most talented people. And then, listen, if we need to trade players, we will. And again, there's a lot of what Mike Hill said too at the time. And then Mike Hill is gone, and all these things are changing. So jury's still out for me on that. But I do think there is potential in Eder, and there is potential in Meyer. There's still potential in Burdick. But it's a much larger question for me because I don't know what JJ Bleday is going to be in Oakland. And Watson is still so young in terms of his development. So, and Berry too as well. So I don't know. I'm not the best draft person to ask about draft evaluation, but I would tell you that the Marlins opening day lineup of 9 players didn't have a single player that they drafted or signed via international free agency, which is bleeping crazy.
Hey,
right?
Fortes was in there in 2018 draft. He was in the.
He didn't start opening day.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, go around the league and see how many teams did not draft or sign an international player in a starting lineup of 9 on opening day. The Marlins had none.
Yeah. And before we ask you that last question there that Devin had, I wanted to ask about Kim. Your assessment about her tenure so far. I believe she's on the last year of her deal.
Yes.
If so, where do you think this organization is heading, and how much of her future lies on this season specifically?
Yeah, she's in the last year of her deal. I haven't heard any conversations one way or the other as to whether or not she'll leave or come back. I have no idea. But thus far, the returns on the trades appear to be pretty good. The AJ Puck deal, I thought, looks very good, if not fantastic. It looks like they may have found an elite 8th, 9th inning guy. There's no question. The Reyes trade looks excellent as well. And those were 2 of the big trades that she engineered in the offseason. Some of the other deals, the deadline deals and things of that nature, did not look great. And the free agency also has not looked great as well. I mean, those are all true statements for sure. Some of the free agents also, even though she was the general manager, I would not indict her for, because I believe Derek Jeter did most of the legwork on at least one very big one. So I would say at this point, you have enough of trades and free agencies under Kim's leadership to make the judgment at the end of the season. They only won 69 games last year. If they win 85, 90 games, I think that's a pretty successful season. And my guess is that Kim would come back another year. If they don't improve and they look the same as last year, I mean, I don't know how that could be possible. So a lot riding, it feels like, on this year, in my opinion.
Yeah. And then finally, Eli, if we could bring back the tweet up there. I guess more of a fun question. And from Devin, want to know details of trades that didn't happen in the last 2 years, if you have any, Craig.
There's so many. I mean, I don't know. We could be here for hours.
The
fun one.
The juicier one, I suppose, before we let you go.
I don't know. There's so many. What is it? What are we looking for?
Whatever you want.
Yeah, big time hitters looking to be acquired.
Well, I mean, I tweeted out the Ozuna Garcia thing for a reason. It wasn't like there was nothing behind that. So
Yeah.
that wasn't a good enough one. They're definitely if they did not get a rise, they would have had Tyler O'Neill. That's definitely something that would have happened. They would have chosen that route. They could have done that. I don't know what else would have been in the trade. I'm not sure, but that's something they could have done. The Brendan Rodgers thing was real. That was real. There was some discussion there about that about him for Edward Cabrera, but I think that Miami didn't want to do that. What else?
One that hasn't been public on social media yet.
I'm trying to think of a good one. Like, there's nothing. I don't think that there's anything made with any major trade
or even free agency.
Jake Myers, I know they looked at him, and Siri. Those are with Houston. They talked about those guys.
You mentioned O'Neill. Obviously, there's some hiccup with him in St. Louis. Is that still an option? Are they still looking at him? Are they still?
They need to get lefty. I keep saying it, but they need to get a lefty. These righties. I mean, I guess they need to get anybody who can hit at this point. But I think that's. I think. Look, the Cardinals are not dumb. They're not gonna trade O'Neill when he's at his lowest point. So we're gonna have to wait on. The Cardinals need pitching pretty bad. So there's a possibility of that there.
Did you ever look at any of the of Rosareno or Yandy? Who I know Rays trade a lot. So
Mountcastle. That's another one. That's another one.
That's a weird fit with Coop.
That's another one. Yeah. I don't think again, you're talking about things that go from 1 to 10. Like that may have been a 2, but I know that Mountcastle at least came up in some conversation as a possibility. That I am positive of. I'm trying to think of the other ones. If you would have prepped me for this before, I probably could have done a lot better. But that was another name at least that they looked at. This one probably came, if you think about it, I think this one probably came after they didn't get Jose Abreu. That feels like what happened. They said, okay, we didn't get Abreu, let's pivot to this. And then they pivoted away from that too.
Yeah, I think that's where we could wrap it up. Craig, thank you so much for joining us.
Any other questions that were important, Eli? Or you guys? I have like 2 more minutes. If you guys, we got to get Hayes over to pitching practice here.
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question.
Hayes?
Yeah, how's he doing?
He's doing great. He's been pitching great. I got a big announcement coming for the weekend with him. Not playing though. That's a little tip. Not playing. But let's just say that you'll be seeing him this weekend in a very big way if you watch Marlins coverage this week. I'm very really big stuff this week. Very excited.
I know.
But yeah, he's been doing great. Very happy.
Very good. Very quickly before we go, Craig, we're recording this on Donnie's birthday. Don Mattingly.
Donnie, my guy.
Yeah, so he's your guy, and he's still obviously active in baseball. First year bench coach with the Blue Jays. Do you know how that's going for him? How is he?
He loves it. I heard yes. I heard yes, he loves it. He loves it. He's having a great time. The team is winning. It's it's one of those things where I feel like he thought that it was over for him here, and he wanted a new challenge there. He loves the players there too. I know that they really lean on him quite a bit, and he's still very much hands-on like he was in the past, but in a different role. So I was absolutely shocked that he took that job, but he's doing fine. He's I'm very, very happy for him. I do think that his personally for me with Donnie, his last year, this last year, I don't know, something was just off with him the whole entire year. I feel like I feel like it was 1 year too much for him here. I feel like it was just like, boom, it's a wrap, and probably should have left before 2022, to be honest with you, because so many things went sideways last year.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed having Schumaker as the manager too. I think that's a significant change there. So it's not like I think Skip is a better manager than Donnie, but sometimes the situation does dictate that it looks like that. And maybe there's a part of that too, because there's no doubt that Skip is super, unlike Donnie, Skip is super aggressive with these moves. Like he said, like when I'm going to, you know what it is? The reason why the run differential for the Marlins is going to be awful all year is because when they have a chance to win, he's going to throw the kitchen sink at the game. And guys, when they are going to lose, I'm not going to say Skip's going to punt the game. It certainly feels like he's just like, all right, on to tomorrow, which is rare. Like, in the past, it was those Marlin teams, they would lose like 7-3. And then we fought really, but Donnie, you guys fought real hard. Are you proud of the way you guys fought real hard, but you lost 10th in a row? Well, we're never going to quit. We could fight with it. And this guy's just like, all right, we're down 7-0. Put Smeltzer in. Let's just, that's it. What do we got to do? That's fine. And maybe it's a different way of operating for sure from what we've seen in the past.
And that is where we will end it. From Isaac, from Eli, from Craig, myself. We'll see you guys all in 2 weeks. Peace out and go fish.